Hey folks, thanks so much for being here. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up. What you're listening to is an episode from VJ Talks, my podcast. And this is a re-upload, so if you hear anything about, hey, go check out this link, go check out this forum, etc., it's more than likely not there anymore. So just wanted to give you that heads up before you went looking for something that wasn't there. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Please enjoy, and let me know what you think in the comments. Catch you later. Hello and welcome to VJ Talks, a bi-monthly podcast presented by VJH Creations LLC, where I talk about anything and everything to do with TTRPGs and sometimes wider pop culture. I want to give a quick shout out to Arcane Anthems for providing the intro and outro music you hear for this podcast. Arcane Anthems creates free music for tabletop role-playing streams and podcasts. Music adds immersion, tension, and emotion to games, but often streams and podcasts shy away from using music for fear of legal ramifications. Arcane Anthems wants to make it simple to add music to your games. Hello, everybody. Welcome to VJ Talks. It is I, your illustrious host, VJ. Welcome to this episode of Dragon Age, Worldbuilding, and more, where I am here with two amazing guests to talk anything and everything Dragon Age. Dillin, if you'd like to introduce yourself for our lovely listeners.
Sure, yeah. I'm Dillin, or Super Dillin, if you know me from the internet. Both of those names are fine to use for me, and please use she, he, and they pronouns when you are talking about me behind my back later. I am a RPG writer and actual play performer, and I think it's very important to mention for this that I am a retired Dragon Age fan fiction writer. So I think those are my credentials that I present to you, my accolades to get me on this show.
Y'all, I didn't know that when I invited Dillin. I went on TikTok and I was like, I'm gonna be talking to a Dragon Age girly. I'm doing air quotes because y'all can't see my hands. As it were, and someone was like, "Oh, are you talking to Dillin?" I was like, "Wait, Dillin's in a Dragon Age," and then it was. So I didn't know that. Okay, all right, please continue.
You can normally find me as a principal character on the Atomless, which is a Starfinder podcast. It rocks. It's so good. And we're doing a little mini series right now, which is like a really short arc if you want to like get a flavor for us. And then maybe you'll get hooked and want to hear the main campaign. So that's it. That's it for me.
Dillin can also confirm the Atomless is amazing. James.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here. I'm James. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a queer, trans, and Latina creator in the TTRPG space. I tend to have the reputation of that guy that maybe had one video that popped up on your For You page, like, I don't know, a year ago, and then every now and then you go, oh my god, that's you! Yeah, hi, it's me. I'm so happy to be here. You can find me several times a week at Starlight Tales, which is a sci-fi fantasy queer and trans-led channel that VJ is on, and I'm about to put VJ through some untold horrors in the conclusion of the Atlantis-inspired campaign I'm running. It's going to be a normal time. You should come watch. No crimes committed by either of us, even once. I'm there several times a week. I've also been in arcs 5 and 9 of Unprepared Casters, and I've never written Dragon Age fanfiction, but I would say I'm a semi-retired avid Dragon Age fanfiction reader, so thank you for your service, Dillin. I really appreciate it.
Then thank you for yours.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Gentle listeners, I really just gotta say that I am constantly harangued and abused by my lovely DM here. Always doing terrible things to me, except for one nice thing in the last episode we had. Just that one nice thing. But yes, you should totally come and listen to that as well, just like the Atomless. Everything on Starlight Tales is amazing and gut-wrenching.
Oh, yeah, I'm newly catching up. Starlight Tales is great.
Yeah.
I found Starlight Tales through Unprepared Casters because I wanted to, like, find where all of the Unprepared Casters people are elsewhere in the space, and found Starlight Tales. It's lovely.
We're like Unprepared Casters' gay cousin.
Yes,
cousin.
That's so.
It's so fun.
That's so fun. It's so accurate. I love that.
Thank you.
But yeah, check the show notes for all the links for our lovely guests here, and we're gonna dive into it. Dillin?
Hello.
James?
Yeah.
tell me about Dragon Age world building. What, like, so, so obviously we've got like two main things to cover here. The more, which is some of the mishandled bigotry and stuff in the game and whatnot, and then the world building. So like, what do you like about it? What drew you to it? What inspires you? Speaks to you?
Yeah. Would you mind if I opened us up, James?
Please.
Okay. I think I fell in love with Dragon Age. May I tell a brief story of how I fell in love with Dragon Age?
Please.
I think you will like it, BJ, in particular. But I was. What's the rating for this podcast?
Oh, you know what? I don't think I've ever explicitly stated that, but anybody listening, we'll give. You can check the rating in the show notes, so they'll know what it is. Say whatever you want here. Mm-hmm.
Say whatever I want?
Yes, you can say whatever you want.
That's such an exciting opening question for this story.
So I was stripping for a living back at this point in my life, and I had not played a video game in like a decade. I forgot that was just I forgot it was an option. I had played a side scroller, and then there's a blank gap in my knowledge of what was going on in video games. And I was at the strip club one night for work, and I got off the stage. It was dead. I quit like halfway through my stage set because I was like, there's nobody to give me money for this. I'm not doing it. I revolt. And I sat down at the bar, and I put a blanket around me, and I started scrolling on my phone, and a lovely girl that I worked with came over to me and sat down next to me and brought a drink and was like, it's dead in here tonight. And I was like, yeah. We had never spoken before. And she goes, I will never forget this ever in my life. She goes, you look like you like elves and shit. And I was like, I do. I do like those things. And she went, do you want to, make up an excuse and leave early and play this video game? And she had Dragon Age Origins in her bag, in her magnificent giant stripper bag. And I was like, yeah, I don't even know your real name, but yes, let's leave together and do this. And we went back to my apartment, and we stopped and bought a bottle of wine on the way, and we just sat, and she actually made me play all of the Origins. She was like, all right, now quit the game, save, you're starting over. She made me play each Origin so that she could get my thoughts and reactions on each and every one. And then she was like, okay, all right, I'm going home. You can have this, and left it with me. It was such a magical little manic pixie dream girl interaction, and I loved it. I loved it so much, and I played that game nonstop. I had no idea that games could be like that, could like tell interesting character-driven stories. I didn't know that was like a part of the whole hobby. So it blew my mind, and I played through, by this time the entire trilogy was out already, so I just binged straight through the trilogy, and I was just enamored that a video game could make me care about people as much as a book or a movie or a TV show could like enrapture me to people. And that was what made it, so pivotal for me.
You were so right about me liking that story.
Okay.
No, you were so right.
Great. It has like fae energy in a way I can't describe, but
she did have very fae energy. She had a big curly red hair that like went like all over the place and like was very unruly. She had magical energy. Yeah,
I love that.
Okay, but did you see her again after that? Because if you didn't, I can believe fae creatures fading in and out of.
Yes, I did. I saw her at work like 2 days later.
James.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about how I got into Dragon Age. 2014 was the year the third game in the series, Dragon Age Inquisition, came out, and in 2014, I was just moved into the performing arts floor of the dorm of the college where I was a freshman. As you can imagine, performing arts floor is an interesting place to live, full of fascinating people.
Yeah.
And as a, young 18-year-old pining little gay guy who didn't know how to talk to people, there was this person on my floor that I had a little bit of a crush on. And that person was playing the hit new game, Dragon Age Inquisition. And I said, well, I want to know what that is, because I like this person, so maybe I'll like it. And I did end up liking it just a whole bunch. It was kind of the first, fantasy medium I ever got into. This was years before I started playing TTRPGs, even longer before I started LARPing. And most of the video games that I'd played had been you don't make your own character and you're kind of on a set path and you don't have a lot of agency in the story types. And so Dragon Age Inquisition was hugely different, and I remember I sat in my room and I just played for hours and hours and hours, and I played the whole story, and I actually ended up playing the series backwards, which was kind of fun, because then, I would replay Inquisition and go, oh, I know who Connor is. I know what this, index is referencing. This codex. And it was a really interesting way to do it, and now, 9 years later? Or time is fake. It's just, I love kind of, burrowing down into the lore and getting new little pieces. I mean, I've played Inquisition what feels like a million times, and I still discover something new in every playthrough. And I think that's what keeps me coming back to it. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
It's so neat. I don't know how they hid so many little things in there, but God, I love it.
Just share mine. All I know is Dragon Age Inquisition, and I've never beaten the game. I played it for a while. I like it. But there's I went underground, with the dwarves, I think, or whatever, and I wasn't, and I got stuck, and I couldn't get. There was
it's a murderous DLC.
Yeah, I didn't know,
murderous,
and I got stuck. I was like, oh my fucking God, I can't get out of here. I'd already hit a checkpoint, and I was like, okay, I'm stuck here. And I want to go back and replay it, but I'm so fucking mad that I'm gonna have to restart because I can't
So
leave.
valid for that. Yeah.
Yes, there needs to be a warning on that DLC because it is intensely difficult.
I had no, I was like, oh, sure, this will be fine. I wasn't even low level. I was a decent-ish level, but fuck me.
You gotta be level 20 or nothing.
No, it wasn't level 20.
I was just playing it the other day for the second time ever, and I went, I gotta go. This is good story, but God, it's kind of terrible.
I know,
to play
there's
sometimes.
so much juicy lore in there, but it's so challenging.
I'm also not a big dungeon crawl guy, which makes that extra brutal.
It is definitely the most dungeony of that game of Inquisition, which I guess is so interesting because the other two games you're doing this slog through these fights all the time, but in Inquisition you're just I am the chosen one most of the time, and then you go into the deep roads and you're like,
God,
oh my God, no, unchoose me. I can't.
I've had enough.
Which really, isn't that the true Inquisitor experience, though? Getting out going, I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's... what a romp.
Truly.
A rough time. But y'all heard it here, folks. Please, if you're gonna go check out this game, stay above ground until you're at least level 20.
Yes.
Wait, okay, actually, while I have you here, what level should I be if I want to go and attack one of those dragons? Because I never did, because I was really, really afraid.
Oh, so the dragons are tiered at different levels. So the Hinterlands dragon is the easiest one, but I mean, and by easiest, I'm not saying easy. I would still recommend being 10 to 12 to go fight that one. And then I think the Crestwood one is the next highest tier. And then the hardest ones are in some of the areas that you unlock later. But yeah, I would start with the Hinterlands, Crestwood, and the Stormcoast Dragons are pretty manageable in like the levels like 10 to 15, 16.
Okay, all right. Well, now that I've gotten video game cheats and tips from y'all, tell me about the lore. I know very little. I know I know what you learn going throughout the game, and even knowing that, it's just not really there anymore. So I don't know anything.
Sure.
So I think one of the biggest things that has kind of helped me understand the way that the lore is set up, and I didn't learn it until like 3 years into liking Dragon Age, which was a very interesting like light bulb over the head moment, was that when they sat down to make the lore, they kind of said, what if we took our world and then we fantasied it so good, which is why a lot of the like systems you see, for example, like Andraste, who is one of the most prominent religious figures in the whole series, it's Jesus Christ, but what if Jesus Christ was Joan of Arc? And that's kind of the way that it's built, and the more you look at Andraste, the more you go, oh, yeah, actually that's kind of true. And so I think for better or for worse, that's the way that a lot of the like systemic oppression is modeled in the game, which does a disservice to it in many occasions. But it's kind of, so it's interesting to look at it from that angle, because there are some things that I think you go, okay, yeah, I see that. Like, I think the way that they model the chantry after, like, modern Christian and Catholicism is really interesting. But then, you know, you look at things like Templars as a policing force, and it gets a little...
Yeah. That's very spot on. I think it's interesting because they do model it over like our world, the world we live in, right? In all the ways that you said. And then they, in the process of fantasizing like all of these things, they forget to build in like the causes, the real causes of all of these things. So like, and they're still trying to present players with a choice, right? So they've created like these oppressive systems that are based on oppressive systems from our world, like the you know, like religious policing forces, right? But then to give players agency, they were like, let's let players choose which of these two groups to support. Then in doing so, they have to try to give us reasons why we would support the oppressive religious cops. And so then they lose the metaphor they started saying in the beginning of this. And by the time we get to the plot, we're like, oh, okay.
The bad guys.
Yeah.
Oh man, yep. That sounds about that. That actually that feels pretty accurate because, like I said, I played long enough. I think maybe I was level 12, so I played long enough into it and to get to a point where I could get underground, so I did interact with some of this, and I was just like it's just like side eye, just like this feels off, but I don't know enough about the lore. I don't know enough about the world to really yell about it. But I guess so. We know it's got its problems, and we know that it's pulling from like real world like systems and histories and stuff. But do you think there's anything like particularly like really fun and like well done they do in the world? Either like something that might be original and not really based off of anything here, or like if they did something like super cool with like do you find Andraste to be like a particular peak example of like what you can do when you mix two historical or religious based figures and then give them a fantasy story? Or
do you have one, James?
Yes and no. I think that, so with Andraste, I kind of have like mixed feelings on it. I think that there are times in which, so one of the big things in the lore of Dragon Age is this idea that most of the gods, if not all of the gods, are distant or gone or have turned their back on the people entirely. And I think that's a really interesting kind of space to play in for fantasy, which I took a little piece of it and I put it in the Starlight Tales lore, so obviously I'm fairly fond of it. As for things that I think are original, or at least original enough that they don't remind me of anything specifically, I'm a big fan of the way in which they treat like Orlais and masks and their use of bards as this idea of like a high society that hides behind like these kind of elaborate Venetian masks and uses bards as like assassins in their world.
Yes.
Because you know, the
like
guy
that.
playing great music can probably get close to the guy that you don't really want in the game trademark anymore. And I think that the way they handle high society is often really interesting as they touch on more of the like what's happening just under the surface than what's on top. And I love to play in that.
I like that too. I think my favorite thing in the Dragon Age lore that I think just really stands on its own is actually one of the things that's not really tied to like a real world comparison is the invention of the Fade and what the Fade is.
Yeah.
So the Fade is like both simultaneously like an afterlife, but is also like a parallel realm to ours, in which spirits, the undead, habitate this place, but it's also where all of magic is coming from. And people in the world of Thetis have varying degrees of connections to this world. So like baseline is that everybody who is not a dwarf who lives underground has dreams, and those dreams are actually just like a little piece of you that is venturing into this like across the veil universe, this realm. But then mages are people who are able to actually like pull magic out of it like a thread and use it to their own. So it's like people have these different degrees to it, to connections to it. Dwarves can't tap into it, but because of that, they're able to like physically handle it and like pound it into tools and armor and things like that. So I think that whole invention and the idea that people in the world have this very, very individual relationship to it is so cool. And every time a game touches on it, I'm thrilled. Like those are some of my favorite bits of the story.
Okay, so we know that James, we know that James has taken some, like, the part that they like and put it into Starlight Tales. Have you?
I love that, and I support you.
Thank you.
You know what? I don't support it. It because it makes me sad. Hey, the gods are distant.
You're playing the one game on the channel where the gods aren't distant. So what is that? Just a little gift that I've handed you. Just like a little gift. It's got a bow on it.
I need y'all to understand something. It like, you know the phrase to have and to lose is worse than to never had it all or something like that. I think I might have been a little bit better off not having these close relationships to the gods and feeling like they're my family.
And knowing that they may abandon their thrones.
I'm shrugging, viewers at home.
You know
can't
what?
See it, but I'm shrugging.
Moving away from the absolutely devastating world building that James continues to do and put us through, Dillin, for any of your like games, world building, anything, have you taken like bits and pieces and concepts of the Fade or the full thing at all and like put it in the games or anything, your games or anything like that?
I have not done that for any of my public for consumption games, but my home game boys do not play Dragon Age, so I stole the whole thing.
Nice.
As you should.
Not really the whole thing, but I stole a lot.
I support the whole thing.
I stole a lot. I stole, namely, like the concept of the demons having like being tied to different kinds of emotions, which I also liked, like pride and rage and all of those things. I loved that thought. So I put that in my game at home.
Okay. That's God, my brain just like, nope, lost your question. But then it immediately came back. Listeners, okay. you're used to that happening, so just ignore it. Is there anything? So we know like from each of you, like one thing that you like really like. Is there anything else out of there like that's maybe not your favorite, but it's still something kind of interesting that you've like taken and moved over, or gotten some like initial inspiration from and turned it into something completely different? Like I really want like I want anybody that's listening to this to like hear the process and thoughts of how like, hey, you could either do what, you know, the first two part of this is like just take it wholesale and just drop it in your thing, or here's something that inspired us and then we like transformed it or something.
I don't think I've taken a ton from it, just because the games that I DM and I world build for are very much like, I try to remove them as much as I can from our modern world, because I don't really have any interest in running games with like oppression and racism and those kind of themes, and those are very, I think, like integral to Dragon Age as a model of our real world. I do like the way, and this is something they've just kind of started to play in the third game, and especially the DLCs, is this idea of like magic and magically touched things being living. Like, I suppose, I guess, for the Descent DLC of Dragon Age Inquisition, they revealed that lyrium, which is this very big, like, magically powerful force that helps to fuel magic in casters and in Templars, who are the magic cops, is a living, breathing thing. And I think that's such a neat idea of, you know, I think a lot of people, when we think in fantasy of magic as just sort of this thing that people can do. And I like the following of that thread in where did it come from, what if it's alive? Like, how do you ethically manipulate something that's living? Is it sentient? Is it not sentient? And I think that's just a very fun kind of space to play in. I haven't stolen this yet. I'm a big fan of the way that Dragon Age does the blights, what if a pandemic was just a bunch of really angry, kind of freaky looking guys who stormed into your house and murdered you about it. I think that's really neat. And it's just fun to play in. I haven't stolen it yet, but you know, you never know.
The Blight was a great villain because they were just monsters. They were not, you know, like they were just monsters. And like the political like turmoil of the first game was sort of like interesting because it was like, you know, which side is handling the onslaught of the monsters better than the other, and not like pick a side between the cops and the not cops. You know, it was just like, you know, like most of the game you are killing monsters, so it definitely is a great thing. I also love the lyrium concept very much. But I am obsessed, very, very obsessed with Cole's story and the implications of that, that a spirit from the Fade, from, if we were to transport this into another story, from whatever afterlife is existing in your world, could, under like extreme duress and with enough motivation, could come and like not just like revive, because that's not the right word, but to inhabit a person and give them new life, is so deeply interesting. Like, it's, you know, when we see like something happen in a universe, it's, even though we only ever meet one character who ever does this, there is always the question of like, could this just be a thing that could happen elsewhere in the universe? And I've always thought about that with Cole. Like, you know, the Templars have been doing atrocities all over the world for ages. Like, have there been other instances of a spirit saving someone from them, and where are they? What has their tale been like, and which path did they choose? So I love thinking about that, and maybe like how to incorporate something like that into whatever your afterlife or spirits look like in your particular game.
Okay, so for our listeners that don't know that know less than I do, which is so little, okay, so just so that so what is being said here is that, because I know Cole,
yeah.
like, yeah. I don't know if I just missed this or I'm not far enough into it. It could be either or. It's probably the first one. But I don't know. I guess I was under the impression that Cole was just like Cole's actual body was just like, I know Cole is like a spirit or whatnot and just like was physically manifesting it or some way. And just a funky little homie, not like a whole person that was tortured. But please say more.
Cole's story is so one of my favorites. So Cole's story is heartbreaking, actually, and it gets explained more later on in the game. But I think you get more of his story in some of the supplemental material, the books, the Spirit of the Spire story, where basically the Templars, I believe in Cole's case, they had locked, some mages, that they arrest mages all the time. It's a thing that happens in the world. They throw them in these, dungeons in the Circle Tower. And in, I think, Cole's case, the Templars at that tower just got run off. It got invaded by demons or something like that. And they didn't let the prisoners out. They just left. The Templars just abandoned house. And Cole, the actual boy, is this young mage, a teenage, mage whose magic likely went awry and, whatever, gets him locked up. Cole, the spirit, is actually a spirit of compassion that was watching from the other side and was so overwhelmingly heartbroken to watch this boy suffer that the sheer, force of this spirit's compassion literally pushed them through the veil and made them real. And all they knew of the human world was Cole. And so when they crossed over, they were too late to save him. And so they just became him and decided to use their time in this world to help as many people as they could for penance for not being able to help the one person they wanted to. Cole's story is one of my favorite stories from Dragon Age, and I'm very into that character.
He's so neat.
He's neat. Yeah.
I did not think that I was gonna start crying talking about Dragon Age. Oh my god! Oh my god! I know,
but I cry a lot about Cole.
Oh man! Wow. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. Give me 1 second.
Oh, you're good. That was very fun for me to watch you go through all the stages of grief as someone who does know before.
Yeah.
God, I wish y'all could see my face. It was a fucking roller coaster. Just like, oh, okay, and like the way the story was going, I was like, oh, okay, so they got in and like they're both Cole, it's Cole the human and Cole the spirit. No, it's
so sad.
Yeah. So Cole is both real and not real. In the Cole that you meet in the game is like both a spirit and a human, and like constantly oscillating between these because he doesn't even know what he is, because he just came through because he wanted to help, but he couldn't.
Okay, so I have 2 questions about that.
Okay.
The first being, just so I'm understanding, like, Cole the spirit came into the real world and had the body that we see Cole the person, or has Cole the human person's body, like, is...
Yeah. Cole as a spirit is just like amorphous. Spirits of compassion look sort of like little light beams. And then Cole the spirit pushed through to try to help Cole the human, but Cole the human was already beyond help and died. And so now, already on the other side and in a world where spirits do not belong, the only thing that the spirit of compassion could think to do was to become Cole. Okay. And so that light spirit that they took over the visage of Cole, the human, and began going through the world trying to give mercy and compassion to people wherever he could, to right the fact that he could not make up, could not save Cole.
Gotcha. Okay, and so my second question, which might lead to an expanding question, like worldbuilding wise for the both of you. So my second question. So you've mentioned like a spirit of compassion, and you've also mentioned like demons being tied to like various like emotions, rage, pride, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So is it like the demons get the like quote unquote bad stuff, and then the spirits get the like not bad things? Then
that's a matter of opinion in this game. That is a matter of opinion. Solus is very opinionated about that. Is that a feeling is just a feeling, and these creatures, demons and spirits, don't belong in where the mortals are. In their home world, they're just the embodiment of these emotions, and it's neither good or bad. But when they cross over and have to interact with corporeal, mortal, fleshy things, then it bears, consequences that are bad. Is I think more or less how it goes. Would you agree with that assessment, James? I don't know if I'm saying that totally.
I'll be honest, I haven't dived too deep into a lot of like Solus's lore, just because he's a good story, but he drives me a little bit crazy in his opinions
he's terrible.
Inquisition. But that does, from the little bit that I've kind of absorbed, feel correct. I think the demons typically take on, in the game at least, like the ones you fight, like the 7 deadly sins, typically. And I feel like, unless I forget, I feel like you don't really see like spirits super often in the game space itself. I'm trying to think. I know they've appeared.
Yeah, we really only hear about them.
Right.
We don't necessarily encounter them as much.
Okay, so then second expanding question for the both of you. So hearing that, like, demons, one, the answer is like, hey, they're just emotions, they're not actually bad, but then the way they interact with us in the world, okay, I like and respect that for the most part. But the second part, so like you said, demons kind of gotten the 7 deadly sins, bad things, spirits, the good, compassionate things as far as it goes with interacting with the real world. If you had been like still keeping the concept of the like emotions and stuff, if you had been in charge of actually implementing this, or if you were gonna like get the chance, or like if you're playing the Dragon Age game and you get to change the lore however the fuck you want to, how would you change that around? Like the first thing when you were saying it, I was like, man, I really want a demon of compassion, because it sounds like they do, like, it sounds like the demons are having the negative consequences of things like that onto the world. And I'm like, okay, but what does that look like when you take, like, you give a demon that's like joy and compassion, or you give a spirit that's like rage and pride, if they're supposed to be representing the good and the bad of that. But yeah, just curious what you do with it.
Yeah, I think if it were me, I kind of like the idea personally of like non-human creatures, whether that is spirits, demons, etc., kind of experiencing human emotions with more fluidity. I think that's kind of fun. I believe, and I hate to give Dragon Age Absolution a compliment, I do believe we saw that a little bit in Absolution with the spirit who became a pride demon.
We did.
Yeah. But I like that idea of like for creatures who don't necessarily experience the range of human emotion, experiencing it with less control and more fluidity. I think that's kind of a fun space to play in. But also, I don't know that I really of the things in the Dragon Age series that bug me sometimes, I don't think that the like spirits and demons necessarily ever have. I think it's okay. I probably would deal with it different, but I don't dislike what they play with in that space, at least specifically.
Yeah. I just don't agree with using the 7 deadly sins, because I just think that desire being a demon is off-putting, to say the least. It's my least favorite of all the demons. I actually like the concept overall, but once desire gets in the mix, I'm just like, especially when it's like it necessitates that any spirit that has the emotion of desire will be like manipulative and also pretty egregious consent wise and things like that. Like, like there's levels of it that are just tired, and that's just what comes with trying to like copy a religious like set of rules and try to make it into your story. But that's really, I think, the only one that really icks me pretty bad.
Sure. I totally forgot about desire demons until you said that. I think I've just put them so far in a little box in my brain.
Yeah. Well, they stopped bringing them back, thankfully.
Thank God.
Yeah. I'm not sad about it.
No.
I was honestly just assuming desire was a spirit. Like, I don't know. Like, I was just like, oh, and then you said it, I was like,
They're pretty bad.
Yeah.
Or like make them both. You could have both.
Make them both.
It could have been
right.
both. We could have had
exactly.
a grand old time with both. A nice little juxtaposition.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, y'all. I think.
Oh, is it time? Is it?
And everybody, that is where we're gonna end this podcast episode. Thank you so much for this quick little. No. I think it's that time. I think it's
okay.
We've touched on it a little. It's been touched on a little bit, but I think we've got to talk about the more part of this episode. Gentle viewers, I mentioned it earlier. The more part is the bigotry within the setting and the game and how it's poorly handled, and the shows. Like the inspiration for this episode was literally watching James talk about Age Absolution, because I watched it too, and I was like, I had the shock of my life at the end of it. I was like, be so fucking for real, and I didn't know enough about the setting to be like, is this just a bad, like, did they just make a misstep in the larger context of the thing? Like, is this just like they did a little fucky wucky this one time, or if it's like a big old wide old issue? But yeah, let's. Yep. Oh boy. Okay. I think it might be actually kind of fitting to start off this section with talking about Absolution, because I'm both of you.
Sure.
James, I know you've seen it. Dylan, did you see it? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I assumed yes. But yeah, so like, y'all, in your own words, first off, what's going on with Absolution as a show? Like, what is the whole, like, what is the premise? What is happening here?
I'm gonna be honest, I repressed like 60% of the plot, I think.
So fair. That's so fair.
Dillin, do you remember more of the plot?
I do.
The answer can totally be no. I can totally edit it in like a.
So there's plot. It's just that the plot's the problem. So so that's like I'm trying to feel like, so in Dragon Age, the overarching story, there has been a big elephant in the plot, device about elves having been enslaved, particularly in one country, Tevinter. It's happened elsewhere in the world, but Tevinter is like the big bad of slavery in this world. But we haven't really gone there in the games. So we haven't, like, we've heard about it, we've read little, notes about it, occasionally a character brings it up or whatever. So when Absolution came out and they were like, all right, it's going to be set in Tevinter, and we know that the next game is being set in Tevinter, there's been a lot of anxiety about, are they going to stick to their guns from, like, the, earlier games, or are they going to try to find a way to add some more, like, I could totally imagine them finding ways to sort of either finesse this lore, they've retconned things before, or to, at the very least, take a hardline stance that slavery's bad. Those were my three, like, wishes. But in this show,
really
I was like, what you can. So, but in this show, we follow the plot of an elven woman who grew up in Tevinter, was enslaved, but had a weird like familial-ish relationship to the family that she was living with, until of course that went sour, because of course it would, and she escaped. But she is traveling back to the city for a magical device that her girlfriend has convinced her. Her girlfriend used to be in the Inquisition, and needs it for, as we know from the end of Inquisition, spoilers, the Inquisition is still sort of working after the game is over on the quest to try to find solace. So the idea that the Inquisition might need an ancient elven artifact is totally in line in what we would think. So her girlfriend tells her, I know where one is. It's in Deventer. We got to go back. So obviously emotionally tumultuous that this woman has to travel back to this horrible city where she had horrible things happen. We meet the guy that she grew up alongside of, who was a kid when she was a kid, but was the kid of the people that were the slavers. So where we meet him, and the show kind of paints him as like a maybe sympathetic character, like that he loves her and like that he thinks of her as a sister. And that is like about halfway through we are shown and told that. And then like we learn that that's obviously not really true, and he is just, terrible, as expected. And then we learn that the girlfriend lied and wanted this artifact for... What was the reason? I was so mad. I forgot why.
I don't remember.
But she did not need it for the Inquisition, was the thing. She wanted it for some sort of evil plot purpose.
There was some castle at the end of it that had all the red stone and stuff, and there was some creature inside of this giant, like, fucking red throne or something.
Oh, right. She fucking, what's her name?
Knight Commander Meredith.
Jesus.
God.
Terrible.
Y'all sound like it's a really bad thing, but I don't have the context for this.
Knight Commander Meredith is essentially the Templar in charge in Kirkwall, which is the city that Dragon Age 2 takes place in. And we see Meredith kind of more and more so being like, what if we actually just killed all the mages all the time? That would be kind of fun. And being corrupted by red lyrium, which is sort of lyrium that has been corrupted and has a lot of... I could ramble about it. It does a lot of negative, bad things, both transformation-wise and, emotion-wise. And at the end of Dragon Age 2, if you side with the mages, I'm not going to say that. If you side with the mages, you end up killing Knight Commander Meredith, and it's, a huge, huge thing. And then Dragon Age Absolution said, what if actually that was pointless? That whole big fight that you did? What if actually she's fine?
What if she's alive somewhere?
Which I don't like at all.
I don't like that, yeah.
It's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess of all the crimes that Absolution committed, it is lower on the...
It's lower, it's much lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I gotta say, for anybody that, didn't see me react to this, I got through the whole thing. I watched the whole thing. I was like, oh, there's queer people in it. Oh, there's a black queer man in it. I was so excited. Oh, he's
I know.
I loved that man, and I loved the dwarf. I was like, this is great.
I know, I liked them so much. And Ashley Birch.
And then,
I know.
And then we get to the end, and very much I was obviously I played the games. I've seen the elves. Not all of them look or feel very at least not all of them, to me, look like they're, possibly being coded as people of color, despite the, slavery, obviously, which, something I don't actually know, and maybe y'all don't know either, but is the slavery, chattel slavery, or is it,
That is a super interesting question, because they've had a lot of loose definitions of it, mm-hmm. and that's why... some of the fandom has been holding out hope that it, like that, because some of it is described in some of the games as like an indentured servitude sort of thing. And then sometimes in other codexes, it's very much described as a chattel slavery. So it's described different ways in different iterations of the series. So it's never been totally clear. So they had no reason to stab a stake into the ground. Do you know what I mean?
So a choice was definitely made there. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah, because the bulk of what we've seen in the games is like, we see a lot of the kind of in the same in like the mirror of Ferelden and Orlais specifically kind of being modeled after like America and Europe kind of as a whole, which is its own thing. I think a lot of what we've seen is sort of like what that system looks like when there is still systemic oppression, but it is not enslaving people. And so, we see a lot of like that kind of like weird treatment in Orlais. We're like, man, a lot of the servants are elves, but they're not slaves, so it's fine. But is it really? Because there's a lot of racism there in its own kind of uncomfy right. And really the only other time that we've seen like actual talk of like slavers or somebody who has very recently escaped being enslaved is in Dragon Age 2. One of the companions you can have was somebody who was enslaved, and you have a chance to either turn him back in to the slavers who come back for him or kill them. And that's really it. And you don't get like a ton of lore about that. It's sort of just like, hi, I'm here to enslave you again. And then, you kill him if you have a soul. So yeah, this was an active choice in Absolution, and it's made me so nervous for Dragon Age
for
Dreadwolf.
4. Yeah, that's all I keep thinking about is that like this is gonna they've set me up to believe that it's not just gonna be an awful part of the setting, it's gonna be like a focal point of the plot, and that is not something I really want to engage with, and I hope so much that I'm wrong, but I mean I saw what I saw in Absolution, so
yeah. It's bad, and I think it's such a shame not to kind of get on a soapbox, because Tevinter is sort of this place where it's like, what if mages did not experience the oppression that they do in Orlais and in Ferelden? What if they got a chance to build their own society, to rule themselves and to study magic the way they want to? And then for some reason the world builder said, what if we made them so evil about it? Like, the most evil. And that makes me so sad, and I think there's a lot of like metaphors you can look at there that make it very yucky, and of course there's the like stigmatization of blood magic, and you can trace that all kinds of ways to very yucky views of like a lot of like indigenous practices and pagan practices. And it makes me so sad, because I love that idea of what if there was this place, everywhere else may just have a terrible time, a hard time, people are scared of them, people lock them away in circles. What if there was this one place where that wasn't true? And they said, no, the Pope, who in the other places is a woman, here is a man, and also they do slavery.
Yeah.
And I'm sad about it all the time.
My big chagrin about Tevinter, one of my big chagrins about Tevinter, is because the series did take the choice that they did want to tackle the idea of real world oppression in the game, right? They've made that choice, and in some ways there are good things that have come out of that. Like, without a world where oppression does exist, we don't get Dorian's story, right?
Sure.
Like we couldn't get Dorian's story because Dorian is a story about, facing, overcoming, and handling homophobia. And it's a story that was written by, a gay developer who wrote his character, and it's something that's very a very nice part of the game. But I don't, as much as you can tell that Dorian's story is written by a person who has faced homophobia in a way that the racial oppression metaphors don't feel like they have been written by somebody who understands the nuances of that experience. Yeah. So like they've missed the mark, and whenever that happens, it's like it's like, you know, when something like what is it, like True Blood, like tries to tell like a metaphor, and like they're like, the vampires are just like everyone else who's ever been oppressed, but then by the end of season 2 the vampires have all killed everybody, and you're like, wait a second, wait the oppressed don't become the oppressors. That's not a thing that's been demonstrated in the world. Like, so it doesn't go the way that we want it to.
That was definitely something I was thinking when you're saying, oh hey, we have this place where like this very clearly and obviously oppressed like class of people have built up. I was like, oh okay, like I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And then it's like, yeah, they're bad, they're evil. It's like, feels very much like a lot of fear mongering that you feel across like a bunch of different settings and like books and like just storytelling. Like, yeah, the oppressed are no longer under the yoke of their oppressor. They're gonna be the bad guys now. They're totally gonna turn it right back around. And it's like,
yeah,
I could get behind a kind of. I don't want to get behind any story that involves slavery. Not my cup of tea. Actually hate it. But I could get behind a story about like the rage of some like groups of oppressed people. Specifically, if it wasn't the entire like oh, this is the one nation we have where the oppressed are flourishing, and they're all it's just bad. If it was like two nations, like hey, there's this one, and then like hey, you know, they're rightfully angry, and anybody that was involved in that, if you go here, you're going to have a really bad time about it. Not saying the bad time is a good thing or right, but their anger is correct for it and whatnot, but just the, like, that one singular place, it's like, we're going to be bad guys too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the fact that magisters from the Tevinter Imperium are inadvertently responsible for the creation of the Blights, which, you know, kill all kinds of people. And like hundreds of thousands of people across Ferelden and Orlais, because the kind of the story of the Blight is that some magisters from the Tevinter Imperium got together and said, what if we like broke into the Fade and went to the Golden City where the gods were, and then in doing so accidentally awakened some old gods who, whenever they awaken, they come back as dragons, and those dragons become archdemons who lead the Blight and are like the leaders of the Blight, responsible for it every time it comes back. It's like a new old god awakening. And so really you take like, hey, here's the worst thing that's ever happened in the history, and also these guys for sure did it. Isn't that cool? It's such a bummer.
I just had to laugh because hearing it all out in like one sentence like really puts in perspective how evil they made this group of people.
Yeah.
And the fact that was a plot twist that they threw in like late in the series. So like that kind of ties in. We were talking about what we love about the lore of Dragon Age, and there's so much that I do, but a lot is that they don't have a great sense of like through continuity. And so sometimes a game will just make a huge major plot change, and like in this case, it not only like retcons a ton of information about the lore, but it also is super icky and problematic as well. Yeah.
I kind of hate it here.
Something.
Yeah.
Welcome to Dragon Age, VJ. It's a mixed bag.
I know.
I hate it so much. Like, anytime, like, I don't, like, whenever I do world building and stuff, I don't like having, like, any, I think the most of anything I'll have in there is, like, classism, but very much, if that's the case, it's
Sure.
like, it's like a story of, like, people coming up and eventually overthrowing those systems. It's never just like, this is just gonna stay here. Like, no, it's gonna change. But, like, that's, like, the most that I put in there. Like, anything outside of that, racism, sexism, it's not my cup of tea. But if I was going to put that stuff in there to eventually be toppled, to tell a story like that, I would definitely be making a conscious choice to say, you know, the worst thing that has ever happened in this world that was man-made and responsible? You know who's responsible for it? My version of, like, the white people that engaged in worldwide imperialism. Like, it would not be.
Right. And they've already built in, like, like fantasy Catholicism and fantasy Europe, like it's already there. They built it. They put it in the game. Yeah.
And they've established that most of those, like, organizations and governments are inherently corrupt. Like, it's not like they'd be taking like people who are revered and making them bad. Like, the Chantry is not good, and that's pretty plain in a lot of the writing. And, like, you know, the leadership in Ferelden and Orlais, depending on player choice, very much can have very not good people in it who don't do good things. So, like, Ixo could have done it. And he said, no.
And just like listening to this, my brain was like, you know, what could have been a really fun thing if Teventer wasn't also just like, you know, let's do a slavery. Like maybe they were doing something with like the Golden City, but it was very much a like it's more of like a cultural, religious kind of practice with them, and it's not something that would actually like awaken the fucking gods. And then the Chantry came in and did some fucky shit. And like was like, I'm gonna interrupt your cultural thing that you've been doing, and and you know how to do it correctly, and like doesn't actually affect the world, and I'm gonna make it bad, and then it's gonna break everything. And like I like just from the little bit that from the hour that we've been talking, I know that there is no vision to have done this, but if that was the case, if it was like, hey, we're retconning it to say this is the truth, but like actually that's propaganda, the Chantry are so responsible for this because they fucked around with our like cultural practices, I could so get behind that. I'd be like, I hope we get to knowing that's the truth really soon, but just
yeah.
Oh man. Oh god. Okay.
Yeah.
God, I don't want to say it feels like a mistake that I decided to do this, because it's not. I'm learning so much, and I love having the both of you here. But I am once again in a proper where I'm like, this series might have been a mistake. This might have been a choice, a bad choice to make these kinds of games. Okay, so damn it, sorry y'all, 1 second, I still lost my train of thought.
You're so good.
Oh, right, okay, to rewind a little bit, because I think when we got on this whole, we got away to this because I was like, hey, is it chattel slavery? Because I wasn't quite sure. Like, I to talk more about, like, Absolution and the choices they made, like, the slavery's bad. All of it's very bad. However, I like watching it. Hira, I think, is the elven woman's name. And I can't remember the mage's name. Miriam.
I think Miriam is.
Those might be switched.
Or oh right, that's switched. It's switched. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So Miriam, Elf, Hira, the partner.
I believe so.
Okay,
yeah.
So assuming those are right, if they're not, y'all, I'll correct it. I'll let you know it's wrong. But
I'm
either
not
way,
watching it again.
Very true.
If we got it wrong, we got it wrong.
The elven woman and the human woman. I was watching this and I was very much thinking, like, is the elven woman supposed to be coded as a woman of color? Like, outside of the slavery stuff, like, if you don't know enough about if it's indentured servitude or if it's chattel slavery, which if it's indentured servitude, I have a lot of questions about why there are kids in there. But that's irrelevant. Maybe I just don't know enough about servitude. But like, I very much looked at the elven one and was like, you very much look like your family. Like, maybe not black, but definitely a person of color. And the human woman very much like, oh, you look like you're just a regular old white woman. And then we get to the end of this where, like, the choice, odd choice to make the white woman, the white lover of this potential woman of color, be like, yeah, I'm just gonna trade you back into slavery, I'll break you out. Like, that is what really, like, cemented this was a mistake to me when we got to the end, because just watching it all, I was like, I don't like the slavery, but I'm willing, like, it's an absolute hard no slavery stuff when it comes to TTRPGs for me. I am willing to engage in it in some way or another when it comes to, like, TV shows, movies, and video games on a case-by-case basis, and I was like, okay, I'm curious. We can keep going. But then at the very end, it was very much like this was like, the question that I kind of have, and obviously we don't know all of the people and whatnot. Does does it feel like a very intentional choice to you, or more of like a misstep? Does all of the bigotry in here, like, are there ever parts when y'all are playing or reading where it feels like, I feel like y'all intentionally decided to like it wasn't just you made a mistake and you don't know enough about the topic to be doing it. Like, it feels like you like made a like conscious decision with even like a vague inkling of the implications. Like, I don't know if I want to say that like they know the ins and outs of this, because saying that also gives too much like like, is agency the right word? Like, says like they had the level of education to know that, and I'm just not hearing that from all of this. But like, you can put this stuff in there and like have a little bit of an inkling that something is without like knowing the full ins and outs of it.
I genuinely, and this is the part that actually makes me scared, is that I genuinely think that they thought that the ending to that was sweet. Like, I think that like them forgiving like her at the end, I genuinely think, I think the whole point is, to me, I mean, and I could be wrong, I could definitely be wrong about this, but I think that's what is so insidious about being ignorant about things that you should not be ignorant about, is that I think that not having your team of writers being educated on how to write stories like this, if you're going to venture into something so sensitive and so triggering, is you have a responsibility to not be ignorant in doing so. But I get the feeling that it was being sold to me as a heartwarming ending to the show. And that's what worries me more, is I don't think it was like, like a small misstep. I think they were like, we did a good job. Like that's like, like that's the vibe I am feeling. I don't know if you would agree, but that's what I've worried about.
So I'll be honest, I don't remember a ton of like how I felt towards the end of it, but I do think that like overall I kind of have a hard time reading their tone, like when dealing with specifically the treatment of the elves in the games. I think like there have been moments and times when I went, okay, maybe they are hiring people to look at stuff, maybe they're, because the nuance there is like not as bad as it could have been. Yeah, I'll be honest, I did not expect Absolution to be this bad, though. I was really, and maybe it was just hope, like, I really thought that, like, they were starting to, like, turn around at least a little bit, and maybe, like, having sensitivity readers or talking to people. I feel like, at least in Inquisition, that, like, there is a little more distance between some of the problematic elements in the earlier games. Not entirely, but a little bit.
Definitely.
And so that's it. I think the tone is really hard to read. And again, that's also why I'm very nervous about the next game, because I think it could go either way. I could see them reading the response to Absolution and going, oh, we fucked up pretty bad. Let's try and at least fix it a little bit. I could also see them leaning into it really hard. And so it's just, and I'm sure that's a symptom of having, a lot of people working on a project, is there will always be people who kind of go, and people who go, it's fine. But yeah, I don't know.
Do you know what it does also upset me? And I won't say that this is definitely what's happening, because maybe I'm wrong and maybe the game will not disappoint us as much as we're anticipating. But they also had a story reason to walk this back. Because the game ends with Dorian, the gay male character who had faced oppression in his home city in Tevinter, and of like a moral calling decided to go back because he loved his country so much that he wanted to fix the problems with it. So they have built in a story reason to sort of fix some of these problems that they had set up to be in Tevinter. And if we go there in the game and it is still an evil city run by evil people with tons of slavery and things like that, it will mean that Dorian did not like get to do that dream, like to go and like redeem his country also, like, and that also kind of is a big letdown that they threw away such a, you know, such a heavy and poignant like arc.
Absolutely.
Okay, just wait a second. Are you telling me? Oh my god, are you also telling me the big racist fucking country is also homophobic? Is that that what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, VJ, they were not nice to
screwed the
Vinter, and it
pooch.
makes me so
Yeah.
sad.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, please continue, please.
That was I just feel like they have, because we don't know what's going on with this game yet, but they have set themselves up to have ways to dig themselves out of the hole that the earlier games put them in for us to go to Tevinter in.
Mm-hmm.
If they choose not to use them, it will be like it will be a great disappointment in a moral sense, and it will also be a complete disservice to the story they've written up to this point. So I think I'm scared, and I hope that they don't keep going down this road.
Yeah, I'm worried that they're gonna do kind of what they did a little bit in Dragon Age 2 with Kirkwall, and that idea of, are you gonna work with the good guys or the bad guys, with Dorian kind of trying to help push Tevinter in at least a little bit of a better direction, which I think would, like, sometimes with Love BioWare, sometimes you don't need to give the players the choice to do bad things and to be bad.
I know. The choices could be, the choices don't have to be that major for me to love. I love that the game gives us choices, but some of my favorite choices in the games are like those smaller choices that ripple out and have bigger effects, not choose between two big factions that we're gonna effectively have to write the same because we have to keep the plot moving. Like, I think if they just kept giving us choices that affected the game but made them a little bit smaller so they could nuance them, God, I would love it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a big root in a lot of the issues in the game specifically, is that idea of, like, every choice is valid. There's good people on both sides. Like, I mean, even just down to when you meet Krem, who's a canonically trans character in there, the fact that you can ask transphobic questions. Like, I feel you don't need to give people that much choice. It's okay to say, this would be a really bad and evil choice to make. We're not going to let you make it. Here's some other choices about the good you can do on the side that isn't morally awful.
Yeah. Well said.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm going through the stages of grief.
I'm so sorry.
We went through them over such a long period of time, and we're really like putting you through it in such a condensed.
I'm getting a crash course in pain.
So true.
Love that for me. Okay, another question I have for y'all. So, Dillin, I know you've played the Dragon Age system. You've run it and played it, and James, I know you read it. I don't know if you played it at this point.
I have read it. I have not gotten a chance to DM in it yet, but I have plans to do so very soon.
Okay, sweet. So I guess my question is, so we know what's in the, like, we know, like, the bigotry and stuff in the video games, in the world building of the shows and the books and stuff. Is it codified in the mechanics in the game as well? Like, if somebody were to go and pick up Dragon Age, the, like, setting and game and stuff, would they just have to be like, okay, I'm just gonna have to rework the lore, which can be easier or harder for some people? Or is it like I have to be a game designer as well if I'm feeling like some type of way about how this stuff operates in the mechanics as well?
I don't recall any of the mechanics having any sort of well, I guess there's like in a lot of tabletop RPGs, there is like like racially assigned stats like to Kunari and elves and stuff, which, you know, is a valid thing to criticize across the board.
But it's nothing
beyond
special.
that-
Like it's not doing anything different that the other systems aren't.
James, can you think of anything else that's like
I don't think
putting
the
that
only
into
thing
print?
that I can think of is, I mean, there's like the equivalent of backgrounds that are like escaped slave type, but I mean those can easily be obviously.
Oh,
just
it's
kind of
right.
X'd
That's
out.
true. There is a background you can choose.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't think so. Like I don't think in skills and abilities and skill trees and stuff. Off the top of my head, there's anything that's like glaringly.
I was able to run the game without including that, and I don't remember having any sort of like hurdles to doing so in the actual gameplay part of it. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I'm keeping a tally. I'm grading per section, and you know what? They get a B- for the TTRPG right now. Preliminary grade. Everything else has been an F-.
Okay.
If you can believe it.
Valid.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm gonna ask final thoughts on the more section before I ask both of you about your fan fiction history with this game to end on a fun note.
Yeah.
Final thoughts? You don't
final
have to.
note. I mean, we said, I think a lot of it. It's just I had a lot of hope after Inquisition, and Absolution definitely tanked that hope. So I don't know where we're gonna be, you know.
Yeah. I think my final thoughts, there is one thing I feel like we're moving in a good direction on, and it's the treatment of and the portrayal of Kunari and the Qun in media.
Yeah.
I think that's been very nice. For
you're right.
most of the, especially early games like the first two, Kunari were kind of just like, you know, the stereotype like bad orc, want to conquer kind of trope. And I think we're finally seeing them move away from that a little bit, which is nice, because the Qun and the Kunari are very cool, and the lore there of like, you know, yes, we are conquerors to some extent, but also like a lot of people who have experienced oppression thrive in our system because they are not faced with that oppression, and they are given a chance to kind of like have a purpose in society that their marginalization doesn't define. And I'm excited to see more of Kunari representation, hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, I would love that. I forgot that was a part of Absolution I liked too.
Yeah. They get one good thing.
They get one good
One
thing.
little gold star.
Actually, I didn't know that about Kunari. Whenever I play, well, I only played Inquisition. Okay, I've restarted the game. Started or restarted the game twice. The first time, I like played it for a little bit, didn't touch it for 2 years. Came back and was like, I have to restart this. I have no idea what's happening. And then the second time, I got trapped. But both times, definitely played the Kunari. I was just like, man, these funky little guys, funky little horns. It was just very much fell in love, and I didn't know that. I was like, oh, okay. Like I had no idea. I was like, oh, okay, big bad orc trope. But now it's like, hey, actually, yeah, we kind of do it, but like you said, James, like,
Yeah.
okay, you know
Slowly
what? I'm actually gonna bump that F- up to just a straight F.
Whoa.
Yeah, you know what? They can get a little points back. It is still overall very bad. An F, an F- and a B-. It's not great. I'm pretty sure that still averages out to like a D at best.
That feels correct. That B- is really doing a lot of the work there.
It's doing a lot of the work. But okay, y'all. Now to end this on a fun note. Fan fiction writing, fan fiction reading, say more, whatever you want to tell me. Like I said, anything can be said on this podcast. So feel free to just...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was so enamored when I finished the series. When I finished Inquisition for the first time, I sat on my couch in the dark and I cried through the credits, like just I was mourning the fact that I was saying goodbye to these characters that I like had fallen in love with. Because really, we've talked about how much the world building has failed, but where the game succeeds is the characters that you as the player meet, interact with, and get to bond with, and how well they do at like putting a lot of effort into that relationship growth. And that's what devastates you when these games end. And so fan fiction was my tool to cope with that, where I was like, it's not over. We're still together. And, writing those relationships. I wrote primarily about my two favorite relationships that I still play through to this day, which is Sarah and Dorian, the two, because I am gay in both ways. So I enjoy that. And so I just wrote, there were a lot of implications, and there was no sign of us getting a fourth game ever. So I was just like, there's all these plans that are set up for us to be doing these adventures and things. So I wrote a lot about that. And a lot of porn. And then also a modern AU in which Dorian was a stripper, because I thought it would be great. A great story. It's one of my favorite ones, and that's it. About 50% of them are still online. Roughly.
Super important question. Where?
Look, I'm very public about my username. It's Super Dillin everywhere. Also, I have 2 pieces of fan art on my wall from my Canon Inquisitor story, because I was so excited so in the end of Inquisition, you lose an arm, the Inquisitor. You lose the arm that had this like magical curse on it. And in one of the post-credit screen, they give you a prosthetic, which is cool. I liked it. But I liked the idea of the Inquisitor just like going on about life without getting a prosthetic as well as an option. So I had dreamed up because mages use bow staves that they need to use both hands for, and I had dreamed up a one-handed like foci that your Inquisitor could use. And I got some nice art, and it sits there, even though it's such an old fan fiction, but it's there, and it makes me happy. Anyway.
Also, gentle listeners, you can't see my face, but I definitely have just hopped on a couple of fan fiction sites just to go find Dillin. But Dillin, important question. Favorite thing, like, you've written a number of things. Like, what's your favorite thing that you wrote? If you had to say, this is, if there was only one thing that you wrote for this that you could recommend to somebody, what would it be?
Oh my god. Because I wrote these like a decade ago, like that's a big question, because my writing has hopefully improved since then, so I don't know. But okay, it is in a classic Dillin fashion. My favorite one is The Trap. Everything else that I've written, if you do read my fan fiction, is happy, good, fan servicey, and usually smut. But The Trap is the opposite, and it is my most favorite thing to write. It was heartbreaking. It is a fic in which Dorian dumps the Inquisitor and breaks his heart, and it is bad, and the comments are mad at me, and it's the best. But I love it. I love to write a fic that I cry while writing. I also recently wrote one for Unprepared Casters as well.
Love that.
So yeah, I like to write fics that are absolutely sad and that ruin the nice things that we had. So yeah, that's probably the best one.
I definitely gotta agree. The comments are wild.
Fuck you! How dare you? I know. Yeah.
James. So
Yeah.
my understanding is you haven't written any Dragon Age fanfic, correct?
I have not, no. When I was, like, kind of in the, like, 2015, 2016, like, really focused, all-encompassed by Dragon Age, and, like, looking, kind of in the same way that you were talking about, Dillin, like, looking for more ways to kind of, like, reconnect with that lore and that story. I, you know, as a guy on Tumblr, read a lot. As a guy with an archive of our own account, read a lot. For a long time, I kind of had this fear of writing fan fiction because it was like, what if I got the characterizations wrong? And so, like, I never really did that necessarily. These days, I'm very lucky to have D&D and TTRPG groups that we all just exchange the most heartbreaking fan fictions you've ever read in your life on a frequent basis, so I kind of get to...
James, just
I
to
know, VJ,
interrupt
you're
you
gonna yell at me.
for 1 second. Y'all, when I tell you that there have been, like, know that I went back and reread some. What am I trying to say here? I devoured like 300 pages of fan fiction in like a week because one, it was so good. It
was so impressive.
And 2, it broke my heart. And 3, when I went back and reread it during Black History Month because I was craving it, I was like, this is an anti-Black hate crime because of how it made me feel. I was like, this is anti-Black during Black History Month. But please continue, James.
No, you're so good. I'm so sorry for those crimes. But a lot of the stuff that I read, also a huge Dorian and Inquisitor shipper. Used to read a lot of that fanfiction. I, like so many, unfortunately am susceptible to the wiles of Cullen Rutherford, head of the Inquisition
It happens
forces.
to the best of us, yeah.
It's rough. You know, they didn't have to make him look so handsome in Inquisition, and I just think that was really rude. I'm also a huge Zevran from Dragon Age Origins guy. I think about that little man every day. I've only played Origins the once, but God, one of these days I'm gonna go back and play it and I didn't even romance Zevran in that run. Like a fool. But no, he is so dear to me.
Yeah.
Also, love Isabella.
Oh, love Isabella. Cannot get her to stay with me.
God,
but
valid.
can't seem to get her to like me, but I love her.
Yeah, I will pine from afar. God, she's so neat. But yeah, so but most of what I've read has been, I used to read a lot of like Cullen Rutherford and Inquisitor like AUs, and then a lot of like canon Dorian and Inquisitor stuff.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, the Soulless Mancer fics that I have liked have all been AUs, like modern AUs and stuff like that, like where I can just buy into his personality a little bit more if he's just like sort of a stuck-up professor rather than like an undead god, like, or whatever, you know, like, I'm just like, all right, man, get over it. like
yeah, BJ, I know you didn't finish it, that I saw your that's kind of a big
Oh, I'm sorry.
Listen, I knew I was going to get spoiled for things here. Okay. I don't care. I was just like, excuse me? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, that's so valid. He does fit the, like, professor.
Yeah.
Much better than guy who lectures you in Haven sometimes.
Yeah.
Soulless, like, bald, like...
Yeah,
the egg. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I keep seeing things that's like, you're the Dread Wolf, and I don't understand it. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on with that. Is that...
That's him. That's our guy.
The trickster god of the elves who locked all the other elven gods away. Except for one, but, you know.
Good or bad idea? The locking them all else away.
I thought it was a fine idea.
Yeah.
I think his idea now is bad.
Yeah.
but he disagrees. So
I'm sure it's not going to be a problem at all in future games.
No.
Once that he has that feeling.
Yeah.
No issues at all. James.
Not even a little. Yeah.
If you have one to give us, if you could only recommend one fic, one Dragon Age fic to
Dragon
somebody.
Age? I did think for just a moment you were going to ask TTRPG fics that I've written, and I was like, am I going to promote the Rose Gold stuff? No, you're valid.
Yes, at the end of this, I am going to ask y'all to promote yourselves once again, so yes, actually.
So valid. It's been a long time, admittedly, since I've read a lot of fics. I think I've sort of fallen into this weird, like, space in AO3 where I can't find anything that really, like, scratches that itch anymore. I don't know. There's a lot of really great Dorian and Inquisitor ones out there, though. I know there's a couple. I can't remember what it's called. I know there's a couple like really big and popular ones in the fandom. But yeah, no, there's some great ones out there. Truly, really talented fic writers in the Dragon Age space.
Yeah, Magnet by Ellie Dew.
Yeah,
read it. It is gonna break your fucking heart. I read it like once a year. I love it. Do not start the sequel. It is not finished and was last updated 4 years ago. So just don't hurt yourself like that. It's fine. Magnet is good on its own.
Definitely saying right now. No, I'm not. I'm doing something wrong, Dylan. I'm gonna ask you more questions at the end of this. Okay. Well, friends, I think we have sufficiently lifted anyone's spirits that was listening to this going into it at the end. So I'm going to ask you to hype yourself up, advertise your stuff, and anything you don't do will be in the show notes. And everything you do will be in the show notes. James, you first.
Sure, yeah, I'll be honest, I don't remember what I said at the start of this because my brain is spaghetti noodles, so I'm just gonna go through it all one more time with feeling once more. Yeah, you can find me on TikTok at Nice One James, on Twitter and Instagram at TTRPG. I make a lot of TTRPG content. A very close friend of mine is currently cosplaying my TTRPG husband, and I may or may not have ordered the things to properly cosplay my character as well. I am susceptible to influencing from
yes.
So look out for that very soon. I'm very excited about
I was hoping you were going to do that. I was like, I'm not going to tag James. I know James is thinking about this. No, please do it.
No, it's officially happening. The wig is arriving tomorrow, and I'm very excited about it. Yeah, I'm in more than just the 2 arcs of Unprepared Casters, specifically arcs 5 and 9, which I'm very fond of. I also make a little appearance at the end of Arc 8 as a treat. And I'm in the Winter Summer School one-shot with Zach Oyama, which I had a lot of fun with. Yeah, I'm all over the internet. I kind of pop into things, and I love being there, and I think I'm not bad at it. Also, Starlight Tales. It's my house. I live there. You walk in any day of the week, I will be there.
Yeah, like that is not a lie. 3 programmings right now, and James is in everything. Mm-hmm. Either DMing or playing.
Maybe soon to be more than 3. Who's to say?
Oh, I too shall tuck my hair. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you. But yeah, thank you for having me, PJ. I had a great time.
Of course. One final question about that, though. What Rose Cult fic would you recommend if they had access to it?
Oh. I can record this on podcast, but no one can read them because they're so safely tucked away in my Google Docs, out of sight. I could just make one up right now and no one would know. That being said, I do think...
VJ would probably know, but...
Sure. Oh god, what's my favorite one that I've ever written? Oh god. I'm having that... all the fics I've ever written have just left my brain. Actually, there's a lie. There is one on Archive of Our Own that I forgot about until just now. Me and my close good friend Jess, who plays said fantasy husband, did a 2-part fic called The Waking and the Dreaming, set in the fantasy Hunger Games, with each of our characters dreaming about the other in very different tones. And I'm very fond of mine. And so sad and pining-y.
Oh.
Yeah, if y'all come over and watch Starlight Tales, Rose Cult will devour your brain, be all you think about.
Sorry.
Well, or you know, Starfarer, specifically Corin. Also,
so true.
So just devouring your whole brain. But thank you, James. I appreciate you being here with us.
Had a great time.
Yeah, you'll have to come back. I'm assuming y'all are gonna play the game, are gonna check out the game when it comes out.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, I'm like contractually obligated to or something.
Truly. By me, actually.
Yeah,
because I'm going to need you to come back and be like, okay, all right, we did it. Let's talk about it.
I'd love to do that, yeah.
Yeah, same.
But Dillin, please hype yourself up.
I will. Hello, I'm Dillin, or Super Dillin everywhere on the internet. I am a games designer. Many of my games are free, including Guys and Chairs, which is a game where you play the unremarkable best friends of superheroes, and you have to help save the day from behind closed doors. It is one of my favorites. I also wrote a game called American Werewolf Biker Club, where you play a pack of werewolves who who are traveling across North America, visiting different chapters in a all werewolf biker club. I wrote that game with Andre Rivera Art, who also did the art for that game. And it's very good. And I am a principal player on the Atomless, which is, as previously stated, a Starfinder podcast, and you should listen to it. I feel like, I was also on an arc of Unprepared Casters, Arc 11, and that's important to me because I realized after the show was over that I shipped my character with somebody. And right now, they are having a Patreon challenge to bring us back for a 3-shot. So if we make it, I can make it canon. So there's that.
So what I'm hearing is, gentle listeners, if you can afford it, go grab whatever tier that is, and go, make this happen. What's the name of that character?
Adelet?
Yep, y'all, you heard it here. I will actually link that in the show notes as well. So hopefully it's still going when this comes out next week. I don't know.
Yeah, give me wish fulfillment. Pretty please. That's it for me.
Okay, well, everybody, you know who I am. My stuff is in the show notes as well. I really wanted to do a bit. It was like, I've also been at Unprepared Casters, but that is a whole fucking lie. It could have been a 3, Vol got it, but that's not actually
true. It could have been.
Who knows? But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. I will catch you in 2 weeks. Fuck me. Why am I so bad at this outro?
You're doing a great job.
Outros are hard.
But yeah, again, thank you, Dillin, James. Super appreciate you being here. Can't wait to bring you back. You are always welcome for whatever topic you want to talk about. Honestly, it doesn't have to be Dragon Age.
Oh, that's a dangerous, slippery slope.
Listen,
Yeah.
I had a podcast. I had a comedy podcast episode that I put on here. There's no rules.
There's no rules?
No rules. It's my podcast.
I love it.
At the very least, there's those little extra episodes I like to do. It's this doesn't have to be TTRPGs. Who cares? But okay. Thank you everybody for being here. Catch you in a couple of weeks. Enjoy the episode and stick around and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.